Okay, hello everybody. I guess nobody knows C4 Ventures. We've been quiet, even though we've been doing quite a few investments lately. So I'm just going to talk a bit about who we are and what we do, and focus a bit on hardware, which is one of the two themes that we invest in. So C4 Ventures is basically the fund that we created with Pascal Cagny. For people who don't know that name, Pascal joined Apple in 2000, hired by Steve Jobs to run Apple, Middle East, Africa, and India, and lived basically 12 fantastic years and left Apple in 2012 to start to do business angeling. About a year ago, Pascal and I decided to structure this investment activity into a proper VC fund, and I'm going to talk a bit about that today. Obviously, all VC tell you they're different. I'm going to tell you why we think we're different today, because we're not really a VC, actually. Basically, what we think is we take the best of both worlds. Pascal started to work as a business angel, and there are quite a few things that we like about the business angels. And I think there's quite a few things that you like as well about business angels. The main two things are business angels can act really fast. They don't have 5 partners to have to talk to. You don't have to go to an analyst and an associate and a partner and a long decision process that's a bit obscure. The second thing that we like about business angel is the fact that they're really expert about what they talk about. They only invest in subject that they know. They usually have a very extensive network that they can leverage and a strong expertise that's going to be directly helpful for you. Usually they don't have that much time, but that's the portion we like about business angels. We like VCs too, actually. There's quite a few things that we like about VCs. And the main thing is they have a dedicated team, which is 100% dedicated to helping the startup. And they have a strong expertise as well, complementary to the business angels. Typically, they know a lot about finance. They have a good network in other funds. They can help you raise more money going forward. We kind of take the two, and we decided to take C4 Ventures as the best of the two. So C4 Ventures today is a single LP fund, meaning that it's only Pascal Cagny's money investing in startups. We have a dedicated team alongside Pascal and I, and 2 of them are here today. And we kept what we like about the business angels, the focused investment theme. We decided to keep 2 themes that are very much consistent with my and Pascal's experience. The first one, we call it the future of hardware. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And the second one is the future of commerce. So if people don't know, Pascal sits on the left, and that's the rest of the team here. Between all of us, we have very complementary experience, mostly in consumer electronics, TMT, fashion, and luxury. And that's what's driving these investment themes that we chose to invest in. And actually, we're also entrepreneur ourselves. We're just setting shop. We had to go through everything that you also had to go through. We had to find our offices. We had to come up with a brand and define our strategy and culture. So for the anecdote, we chose the name C4 for 2 reasons. Pascal's brief to us last summer was, find a name that has a link with me, but if you don't know it, then you don't realize it. But it also needs to be a cool name. C4 stands for Cagny, so C plus 4 letter. And C4 is also an explosive that people call plastic from time to time, because we like startups who break the establishment, who invent the new rule, and come up with their own rule. And the last part of the brief was Pascal wanted a domain name. It's less than 4letter.com. And we're quite happy because we secured the c4v.com, and over a beer I can tell you the anecdote of how we secured it. So I mentioned two themes. I'm going to talk mostly about the first one today, the future of hardware. And behind the future of hardware, there's quite a few trends that we strongly believe in. We don't talk much about the Internet of Things. We think it's too broad and too vast, and actually it's going to be in a couple of months or years talking like investing in Internet. It won't mean much. What we like about hardware is mainly 2 or 3 things. What I call the hyper-customization that is enabled by 3D printing and software. It's about the connectivity and the design and the emotional aspect that hardware has that software doesn't. So like everybody said, hardware is hard, but we think it's more beautiful. Second theme, which usually doesn't overlap much, is the future of commerce. It's more specifically any startup which reinvents the way consumer purchase something. It can be online or offline. We think that the purchasing experience hasn't changed much, if at all, on the offline world, but also online. Most of the businesses that you see online, you still have the same click, add to basket, checkout, deliver. We think that a lot of cool startups are challenging this model. One of the biggest example is Instacart, for example, in the US, but you also have Trunk Club or Chic Tip, a company we invested in for online fashion. A bit about us. I'm sorry you have to bear with the French accent a bit longer. But we don't kind of, we're not afraid of that. We're very French. We are proud of our French roots. But in practice, we've been living in London maybe longer than we have been living in France. So our home is in England. We're passionate about Europe, and that's our main focus. Maybe a bit unlike other VC, we don't really have time to travel all across the world. So we only look at Europe. That means looking at Europe in actually two ways. The first way is the obvious one, startups based in Europe. In practice, that's mostly Paris, London, Berlin, but we also have an investment in Amsterdam, one or two in Israel. But we like Europe. We actually feel at ease within the complexity of Europe. The team is actually made of people from different countries in Europe. We like and we can navigate the complexity of standards of something that I usually explain to American startups. I think there's 4 different types of electric sockets in Europe. And that just tells how pragmatic sometimes you need to be when you address different countries in Europe. And that's actually the second way we focus on Europe. We actually help a lot of the American startups get into Europe. We have quite a few companies who approach us because they've raised a lot of money, they have good traction in the US, they've reached 10 or 20 million revenue, and the next step is to go to Europe. And actually for most of them, even the smartest people in California, this can be a bit scary. They look at the languages, they look at the cultures, they look at the standards, and they usually don't know where to start. A few years ago, Pascal invested in Nest, and I wasn't there, but apparently Tony Fadell keeps telling people that thanks to Pascal, Nest managed their entry into the UK market, and it would have made so many mistakes if they didn't have somebody on the ground to help them. And thanks to this experience, we get approached by a few other companies who want to do the same thing with us. So that's our second way of investing in Europe, bridging the gap, but mostly from American company coming into Europe. This is some of the company we invested in. I split the one in gray, the hardware company. Obviously, you know Nest. I'm sure some of you know Netatmo as well, and potentially Enki, which is a really cool AI/toy company out of California. And likewise, we're helping them roll out this year in the UK and Germany. The way we work with startup is actually, I think, a bit different than what you would get from a lot of investors. Because we're a small team, we don't really cover all of the areas of expertise that you guys need, but the ones we do, I think we're really good at it. This starts with distribution and go-to-market. We know pretty much all of the retailers in Europe. We can tell you which ones are the right one to start with and which ones are the right to scale. We can tell you if you're talking to the right person at Best Buy, at John Lewis, for example. And that's the core of our expertise. Around this, we'll help you define your right marketing and PR strategy to secure these distribution channels and grow your company faster. This is especially true for hardware components, obviously. Shipping and distributing is key. Obviously, you're very tempted to sell online and kind of cut out the retailer's commission. But we're quite convinced that today you can't really be successful in hardware if you don't go to retail. We may be new, but we have a strong methodology that we use that allow us to be very fast, a bit like Business Angels can do. We screen all opportunity in a consistent way, and I'm very happy to take questions after this presentation to explain what we're looking for. To give you a few hints, there are actually 4 things that, especially for hardware startup, we look at. And actually kind of the order that we like looking at them. The first one is the passion and the expertise. Like I said, hardware is hard. So if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have like a good team in electronics, in like EMS background and everything that makes hardware hard, I think it's going to be harder. So passion and expertise is the first thing we look at. The second one is something which actually is hard to combine, but the ability to put together the design, the hardware, and the software. Most of the time, a connected object will only be successful if it merges the two in a very efficient way. The reason why Netatmo with its thermostat and the weather station has been so successful is because the setup is magic, the product is just beautiful, and the functionality are mind-blowing. And their new product called the Welcome is even better than what they've done in the past. And Fred Potter at Netatmo is one of the few guys that we've come across who by himself can make the three work together. It can be done as a team, but that's, I think, one of the components we look at when we talk about hardware startup. The third one is something specific to hardware is the ability to ship. And when I talk to some of the companies in the portfolio, that's actually usually a big leap of faith. When do you stop talking to friends and family, doing kind of beta testers and you're kind of looking over their shoulder to see what they're doing? When do you have enough faith to send a product to somebody you don't know, going to play with it, destroy it, press too hard when it's not supposed to press? And I think for us, we try to judge the ability to ship your product. I'm not asking about thousands of products, one. As soon as you can ship one product, you're onto something. And the last one is the long-term vision. There's a difference between a gadget and a connected object startup. The gadget is a super cool hit, and maybe the coolest cooler is one of them. It's a great opportunity. It's one of the biggest crowdfunding campaign. Netatmo and Nest have the potential to build many products in a full ecosystem. So that's what we look at. So we're C4 Ventures. We're based in London with one guy in Paris. We just set up our website. We'll have a password for the next few weeks. Follow us on Twitter. Get to know us. Thank you.